I thought I was ready for the moment, and then I stepped into the room. Let me set the stage for you. I walked into this high-powered leadership event. I was dressed fresh. I had a fresh haircut, coffee in hand. I walked in feeling good. And then I saw the speaker lineup, and my confidence left the building. I started looking around. Is there a JV team speaker slot I can sign up for instead? Or maybe I just accidentally spill this hot cup of coffee all over my clothes and just make a quiet exit. But then I had a realization that changed everything. New levels require a new mindset. The mindset that got me in the room wasn't gonna be the mindset that got me through the moment. Today, I wanna break down the 7 leadership mindset habits that separate the best from the rest. By the end of this video, you'll have a playbook for upgrading your thinking, leading at a higher level, and crushing self-doubt before it crushes you. If you've ever doubted whether you belong in the room, you're not alone. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to own those moments. Let's go. Okay, before we dive into these 7 habits, let me ask you a question. Have you ever stopped to think about what you're thinking about? Most leaders don't, and that's the problem. Because if you don't control your thoughts will control you. So the first habit that I want to share with you today is the habit of thought inventory. You gotta think about what you're thinking about, because you can't defeat what you first don't detect. But most people never stop to audit their own thoughts. They live on autopilot, unaware that their mindset is actually holding them back. That's why I want to teach you the thought, feeling, action loop. I think this is incredibly important. Your thoughts fuel your feelings. Your feelings fuel your actions, and your actions fuel your results. If your thinking is negative, your emotions will be discouraged. If your emotions are discouraged, your actions will be hesitant. And if your actions are hesitant, your results will be mediocre. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. I don't know about you, but that hits me. Your brain is a GPS, and you control the destination. Ever notice that when you decide you want a certain kind of car, suddenly you see it everywhere? I'm laughing because right now I want a Ford F-150, and I'm telling you, around every corner in town, I'm seeing this car. That's because your reticular activating system filters what you focus on. Your mind is wired to seek evidence for what it already believes. If you believe you're not qualified, you will notice every reason that confirms it. If you believe you are capable, you will find every opportunity to prove it. I love what Henry Ford said. He said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. If your mind is constantly stuck in fear, negativity, or insecurity, you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm going to give you a practical challenge for habit number 1. I want you to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes out of your day, every day, to write down your dominant thoughts. We need to become self-aware about what we're thinking about. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Are these thoughts leading me towards growth or limitation? What thought pattern do I need to replace with the truth today? And here's a key question for you. What is the dominant thought shaping your leadership in this particular season? If you do this 5-minute exercise over a week, you're going to be able to notice key themes that are coming to the surface so that you can identify the dominant thought that is shaping your leadership in this particular season. But here's the thing, recognizing negative thoughts isn't enough. You can't just remove bad thinking, you have to replace it with something better, which leads me to habit number 2, the habit of mind renewal. What you feed your mind shapes your leadership. I like this saying, you are what you eat, come on, physically and mentally. What you feed your mind directly impacts how you think, how you lead, and how you live. If you're constantly consuming negativity, distractions, and fear-based narratives, your mind will be filled with anxiety, doubt, and insecurity. But if you intentionally feed your mind with truth, wisdom, and God's word, you will think, lead, and live from a place of strength. Healthy leaders are self-feeders. Oh, don't you love that? Healthy leaders renew their mind daily. They don't wait for Sunday's sermon to sustain them for the week. Romans 12:2 says this, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This can't just be a one-time thing. It's got to be a lifestyle. Your mind is actually like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant negativity, self-doubt, and fear, guess what? That's what will take root. But if you plant God's truth, wisdom, and gratitude, your mind will be renewed every single day. Here's how you use God's word to swap the lie for the truth. I love the tool of reframing negative thoughts with God's word. Here's an example. Here's a lie. I'm not good enough to lead at this level. Have you ever thought that before? Well, here's the truth. God has equipped me for every good work, 2 Timothy 3:17 says. Here's another lie. I don't have what it takes to succeed. No, here's the truth. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. Here's a third lie. I always mess things up. No, here's the truth. God's mercies are new every morning. You get a fresh start every day. That's what Lamentations 3:22 and 23 tells us. And here's the key. You can't just feed your mind truth. You have to starve the lies too. If comparison is consuming you, starve it by eliminating voices that stir jealousy. If anxiety is overwhelming you, starve it by limiting your intake of bad news and social media. If fear is paralyzing you, starve it by declaring God's promises over your life. This is the power of daily renewal. Leaders who thrive aren't those who have it all figured out. They are those who have committed to renewing their mind every single day. I'm going to give you this practical challenge for habit number 2. I want you to start your day with 15 minutes in God's word. We're talking about 15 minutes out of a 24-hour day in God's word before you consume anything else, news, email, social media. And here's a key question for you to ask. What's one thought pattern you need to renew in your mind this week? But here's the truth. Renewing your mind isn't just about what you think. It's about what you do. Because mental renewal without real world resistance won't build the resilience that you need for leadership. Which leads me to habit number 3, the habit of scheduled hardship. Choose difficult things before difficult things choose you. Most people wait until life gets hard before they start building resilience. But by then, it's too late. Hardship is inevitable. The difference between leaders who thrive and those who collapse, one group is prepared and the other is not. Now, I get it. We can't prepare for every single hardship that we're going to face in life. But how many of you know that there's a science behind resilience? This is why pre-decided hardship works. Your brain has a stress response system. The more you expose yourself to controlled difficulty, the better you handle unexpected adversity. Like elite athletes, they add resistance to training so that on game day, it feels easier. How about military operators? They endured brutal training so that combat feels manageable. Think about the Navy SEALs Hell Week, one of the most grueling experiences in the world. Most recruits fail. Why? Because they weren't prepared mentally for sustained discomfort. You can have comfort or growth, but you can't have both. SEALs don't train to avoid pain. They train to function inside of it. John Wooden, legendary UCLA basketball coach, understood this principle. His practices were incredibly intense. Players often said that game speed felt slow compared to practice. NBA great Bill Walton said, Coach Wooden's practices were so fast-paced, so demanding, that games felt easier. Great leaders don't rise to the occasion. They fall to the level of their preparation. I want to give you a biblical perspective on how to see hardship. James 1:2-4 says, consider it pure joy when you face trials. Then it goes on to say, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. We know that testing is refining us and it's depositing something in us rather than taking something from us. God uses difficulty to develop endurance. If you avoid pressure, you will never develop strength. If you dodge challenges, you will never build confidence. If you escape discomfort, you will never experience growth. You don't have to wait for life to test you. You can test yourself. Feeling undisciplined? Man, wake up an hour earlier. Are you struggling with self-control? Try fasting. You hate confrontation? Have the hard conversation this week. If you do what is hard on purpose, you will be strong when life gets hard unexpectedly. So here's a practical challenge for habit number 3. I want you to schedule one controlled hardship per week. That could be a cold shower, could be fasting, an intense workout, or a difficult conversation. And here's a key question to consider this week. What's one voluntary challenge you can take on this week to strengthen your resilience? But let's be real. Hard things don't just happen once. Challenges don't just show up, test your strength, and then leave you alone forever. No, life will keep coming at you. And the real test, it's not just whether you can handle hard things, it's whether you can keep showing back up when they do. Which leads me to habit number 4, the habit of showing back up. Endurance eats enthusiasm for breakfast. Most people love the idea of success until they hit resistance. Then most quit. But the best leaders, they don't let resistance dictate their results. Did you know that grit is the #1 predictor of success? Angela Duckworth's research found that grit, not talent, is the greatest predictor of success. That's why I love stories like Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Or how about Dr. Seuss? He was rejected 27 times before publishing his first book. Or Walt Disney. Walt Disney was told he lacked creativity by a newspaper editor. Are you kidding me? What made these people legendary? They showed back up. They didn't give up. This reminds me of the difference between a cow and a buffalo. When a storm rolls in on the Colorado plains, these two animals react very differently. Cows run away from the storm, but the storm catches up and they suffer longer. Buffalo run toward the storm, they face it head on, and because of that, they get through it faster. Here's the leadership lesson for us. Run towards the resistance. Some leaders run from hard conversations, challenges, or criticism just like the cows. But great leaders face the storm head on, knowing that resistance won't destroy you, it will develop you. Hardship isn't meant to break you, it's meant to build you. Everything you desire is on the other side of showing back up, of continuing to move forward no matter what is facing you. Here's what I want to tell you today. Perseverance produces power. Hebrews 10:36 says, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. No breakthrough happens without perseverance. No legacy is built without endurance. No great leader is made without resistance. So how are we going to build the habit of showing back up? The next time you fail, because you will, ask yourself this one question. What would happen if I just showed up one more time? What would happen if I just walked through the door one more time? What would happen if I just took the shot one more time? What would happen if I just spoke one more time? What would happen if I just went after that deal one more time? Here's your practical challenge for this habit. The next time you fail, commit to showing up one more time before you quit. And here's your key question. Where do you need to show back up this week? Get back in the game. But let's be honest. Sometimes showing back up feels impossible, doesn't it? Because what do you do when you've shown up, given it everything you have, and things still aren't working out the way that you had hoped? That's where this next habit comes in. Habit number 5 is the habit of holding on to hope. Hope is strategy, not hype. Hope is not wishful thinking. Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is a strategy for survival. It's a strategy for moving forward, for not giving up, for not being a quitter. Without it, Many leaders lose heart, lose focus, and ultimately lose momentum. Have you ever heard of the Stockdale paradox? Hope with realism? Admiral Jim Stockdale survived 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He endured torture, isolation, and the complete uncertainty of when or if he would ever be freed. The ones who didn't survive, ironically, it was the optimists, the ones who convinced themselves we'll be out by Christmas. Then Christmas came and went. We'll be out by Easter. Easter came and went. We'll be out by Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving came and went. They kept setting false deadlines, and when freedom didn't come, they lost all hope. We have to balance brutal reality with unshakable hope. Stockdale's strategy for survival was different. He never denied the brutal reality of his situation, but he also never lost hope that he would one day prevail. There's a tension in this, isn't there? This became known as the Stockdale paradox. It's a paradox, a mindset that says, I will confront the brutal facts of my reality while never wavering in my belief that I can ultimately win, that I can experience a breakthrough, that I can prevail. So why do so many leaders lose hope? Leaders often struggle not because of external obstacles, but because of internal discouragement. They expected success to come faster. They thought results would be easier. They put their hope in the wrong things, quite possibly. But true hope isn't based on circumstances or outcomes. It's based on something so much deeper. I want to give you a biblical hope that is anchored and not fragile. It comes from Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23, and it says this: let us hold fast to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. This kind of hope is different from optimism. Optimism says things will work out soon. Hope says, even if things take longer than expected, God is faithful. So how do we build the habit of holding on to hope? Hope is a muscle. It has to be exercised. When facing doubt, ask this question: what if this setback is actually setting me up for something greater? What if the setback is actually a test for whether or not we will hold on to hope? Here's your practical challenge. When facing doubt, choose one area of your life where you need to shift your perspective from discouragement to hope. And here's the key question: where do you need to choose hope instead of discouragement this week? Hope keeps you in the game, but growth moves you forward. Holding on to hope is essential, but at some point you have to take action toward becoming the leader that you're called to be. Which leads me to habit number 6, the habit of identity growth. Who you are today is not who you have to be tomorrow. The greatest threat to your future self is believing that you can't grow beyond who you are today. This is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. World-class leaders don't just have skills, they have the right mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck, the leading researcher on growth mindset, explains the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is someone who says, this is just who I am, I can't change. A growth mindset says this: I can learn, adapt, and improve. So what's the simplest way to shift from a fixed to a growth mindset? I want you to add the word yet to every single one of your limitations. So instead of saying, I'm not a great speaker, I want you to start saying, I'm not a great speaker yet. Instead of saying, I don't know how to lead a team, you're going to start saying, I don't know how to lead a team yet. This one word shifts your brain from limitation to possibility. Who I am today does not need to be who I am tomorrow. I want to share some examples of some leaders in the Bible that grew in their calling. Saul became Paul. Saul was a persecutor of Christians and became the greatest apostle in the New Testament. How about Peter? He went from denying Jesus to leading the church. David went from shepherd boy in the field to becoming king. If God was willing to transform them, why do we believe that he won't transform us? One of the things that I want to caution you on executing this habit is what I call destination addiction. Too many leaders fall into the trap of destination addiction, the obsession with the end goal while ignoring the process. So many leaders think, once I get there, then I'll be successful. Once I have that title, then I'll be fulfilled. Once I reach that level, then I'll feel qualified. But transformation isn't an outcome or a result. It's about a process. The problem is we live in the Amazon Prime culture. We think change should happen in 2 days or less. Come on. We expect transformation to show up freaky fast like a Jimmy John's delivery. But real change doesn't happen overnight. I want to tell you a funny story about this microwave mentality. It's hilarious, but it's true. My grandma was taking a bath one day and asked my grandpa to grab her some clothes from the laundry room. Now, their relationship was really interesting, so he went and did it, and he probably grunted his way to the basement. Well, one of the pieces was still damp, so he had a brilliant idea. He tossed the damp clothing into the microwave to dry it out, because apparently that worked for all of his wet newspapers. When he took the clothing out, it was covered in burn holes. But here's the worst part. He still gave it to my grandma to wear. Here's the lesson. You can't microwave transformation. If you try to take shortcuts, you'll end up with burn holes in your leadership. Growth takes time. Process matters. The secret to transformation is small, consistent action over the long haul. Long obedience in the same direction. It's not about becoming the person you want to be overnight. It's about committing to the small daily actions that transform you into that person over time. You want to be a good communicator? Start by practicing one speech at a time. Want to be a better leader? Start by making one intentional decision daily. Want to write a book? Start by writing one paragraph per day. Small steps taken consistently lead to massive transformation. Here's my practical challenge for this habit. The next time you say, "That's just how I am," replace it with, "I'm growing. I'm committed to the process. I'm going to stay the course." Here's the key question for you to ask. What belief about yourself do you need to challenge today? As a matter of fact, I'll get this bold. What belief about yourself needs to die? What belief about yourself do you need to have a funeral for if you're going to move forward into the leader that you're called to be? Growth is powerful, and I can't wait to see the transformation journey that you go on. But it's not enough to just believe that you can change. You have to take action with what's in your hands right now. And that's where resourcefulness comes in, which leads me to habit number 7. The habit of resourcefulness. I can figure this out. Come on, just get that phrase into your spirit. Just say it even right now. I can figure this out. We can figure anything out with the help of God. Here's what you need to be reminded today. The best leaders don't have all the answers. They just refuse to stop until they find them. Resourcefulness is a mindset, not a skill. The greatest problem most leaders face isn't a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. How about Elon Musk building SpaceX with no prior aerospace experience? Or Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, had zero fashion background and no business degree. What did they all have in common? They didn't ask, how in the world can this be done? They asked, how can I make this happen? I love Craig Rochell's take on limitation. He says that limitation is the breeding ground for innovation. He actually said this in an interview. Limitation is an opportunity for innovation. Oh, I love that. When resources are scarce, leaders can either, one, make excuses. You can say things like, we don't have enough money or time or connections. Or number 2, you can find a way. How can we do more with what we have in our hands? Leaders who wait for perfect conditions never build anything great. But leaders who embrace creative problem solving turn obstacles into opportunities. We even see this mindset represented in the Bible. In Exodus chapter 4, when Moses doubted his ability to lead, God asked him, "What is in your hand?" Moses held a staff, which was just a piece of wood, but with it, God turned the Nile to blood. He split the Red Sea. He defeated Pharaoh's army. What's the lesson in all of this? God isn't asking for what you don't have. He's asking, what can you do with what's already in your hand? So how do we build the habit of resourcefulness? Well, for example, if you're feeling stuck in your leadership, ask, who can I learn from? If you're facing a financial roadblock, ask, how can we pivot and still move forward? So here's your practical challenge for this particular habit. You're gonna replace I don't know how with I will find a way. And here's your key question. What's a challenge you need to stop making excuses for and start solving? A few years ago, my neighbor and best friend Cap Chatfield made a bold decision that he was gonna level up his mindset. At the time, he probably wouldn't have described it that way, but that's exactly what I saw. Cap and his wife had a clear vision for the future. He wanted to create digital content for the kingdom, not as a side hustle, but as his full-time pursuit. So they made a courageous move. With just a few months of savings, they pushed all the chips to the center of the table. The vision was clear, but the reality, it was filled with uncertainty. I watched Cap wrestle through every one of the mindset habits we just talked about. He had to monitor his thoughts when doubt crept in. He scheduled difficulty, showing up every day, creating content when nothing was taking off yet. He showed back up when the algorithm didn't favor him. He charged the storm when quitting seemed easier. He held on to hope when he didn't yet see the fruit. He had to remind himself that he could change and grow. And he had to figure things out without waiting for perfect conditions. My good friend Colin Henderson always says that thoughts become things. And that was exactly what happened in Cap's life. There were moments that he wanted to quit. I'd get a text or a call and we'd process it. But every time he'd tap back into these mindsets and endure forward. And then came the moment I'll never forget. We were sitting at a steakhouse. I was with my wife, Cap and his wife, and 4 of our closest friends. He had just hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Are you kidding me? There was supernatural favor on his journey. There were practical skills that he had to execute. But none of it would have happened if he hadn't first upgraded his mindset. Cap's story is proof that when you change your mind, you change your outcomes. When you change your outcomes, you change your life. So here's my challenge to you. Which one of these 7 mindset habits do you need to upgrade today? Let's do a quick recap. Number 1, the habit of thought inventory. Think about what you're thinking about. Number 2, the habit of mind renewal. Feed your mind what fuels your future. Habit number 3, the habit of scheduled hardship. Choose difficult before difficult chooses you. Number 4, the habit of showing back up. Come on, endurance eats enthusiasm for breakfast. Number 5, the habit of holding on to hope. Hope isn't hype, it's a strategy. Hold on to that thing. Number 6, the habit of identity growth. Who you are today isn't who you have to be tomorrow. And number 7, the habit of resourcefulness. You don't need more resources. You need to maximize what's in your hands right now. Your next level isn't waiting on external change. It's waiting on your mindset to change. I want you to drop a comment below and let me know which one of these habits you're committing to strengthening in this season. And if this video helped you at all, I want you to hit the like button. As a matter of fact, why don't you just share it with someone who needs it today and subscribe to the channel, because we're gonna keep giving you weekly content just like this. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.